Good morning. This is Get Up on ESPN. Mike Greenberg, Laura Rutledge, and as you see, we have our whole crew ready to go here. We will get into some Super Bowl coverage for you this morning with Bobby Carpenter and Bart Scott. Timmy Legler is here. Richard Jefferson is here because obviously the entire world of sports continues to mourn the death of Kobe Bryant and all the others in the helicopter crash in the Los Angeles area on Sunday. We have the very latest on the crash for you now. National Transportation Safety Board investigators confirmed that the pilot was trying to climb above a layer of clouds before plunging into a canyon near Calabasas on the outskirts of Los Angeles. All 9 victims have now been identified, including the pilot of the helicopter. ESPN has confirmed he is 50-year-old Ara Zubayan. He had 2 decades of experience and had flown Kobe Bryant several times before. Meanwhile, the makeshift memorial outside the Staples Center continues to grow. The NBA has postponed tonight's game there between the Lakers and the Clippers.
And across the NBA, teams continued to pay tribute to Kobe Bryant. In Detroit, the Pistons wore jerseys with the number 24 on them. Former Laker Larry Nance Jr. seen crying on the Cavs bench and retreated to the locker room to collect himself during the game before eventually returning. In Minnesota, the Timberwolves took an 8-second violation and put the ball at the foul line where Kobe passed MJ on all-time scoring list. Former Laker coach and Kobe teammate Luke Walton looking on, and the Timberwolves fans showing their respect. And in Dallas, Luka Doncic, who talked with Kobe just last month, wore Kobe sneakers, wrote the names of all the victims in the crash on his shoes before the game. Here's Doncic on everything that Kobe meant to him.
It was very emotional. I broke down after the first quarter. That's when it really hit me. You know, just that was moment. It was really hard to play today.
Kobe was a trailblazer. He was someone that I looked up to my entire childhood, wanting to be like him, wanting to hit the last second shots like him. Not only as a basketball player, but just seeing how he maturated into as a father. I think all of us on this court really strive to be like that in our second careers.
The image that keeps coming back to my head is the footage of Kobe and his daughter at the Laker game about a month ago when she's asking him questions and he's pointing things out, and think about how beautiful that scene was and how many incredible times they had ahead of them.
He lived his life to the fullest every single day, and he's an absolute inspiration, and I'm honored to be able to call myself his friend and his teammate and his brother and all those things that came with the years we spent together.
LeBron James took to Instagram last night to share his thoughts, which read in part, "I'm not ready, but here I go. Man, just sitting here trying to write something for this post, but every time I try, I begin crying again just thinking about you, niece Gigi, and the friendship, bond, brotherhood that we had. I literally just heard your voice Sunday morning before I left Philly to head back to LA. Didn't think for one bit in a million years that would be the last conversation we'd have. I'm heartbroken and devastated, my brother. Man, I love you, big bro. My heart goes to Vanessa and the kids. I promise you, I'll continue your legacy, man. You mean so much to us all here, especially Laker Nation, and it's my responsibility to put this on my back and keep it going." Meanwhile, Kobe's former teammate, Shaquille O'Neal, spoke on his podcast.
I'm not doing well. I'm sick. I've just been sitting up here watching old highlights and just trying to reminisce. We still are the best duo ever created. That's not going to change, but I wish at 60 and 70 in the old folks' home or on the show, we could talk about it. The only thing that saddens me is I'm not going to be there. He's not going to be here when he walks into the Hall of Fame. I was just thinking about who's he going to call up to bring him in? Who's going to give a speech? Is he going to call me? Is he going to call Mike? Who? No, that's not going to happen. I have a little brother, but I really lost a brother yesterday.
That's one of the many things about this that I've been thinking about the last day or two is that in March, at the Final Four, I guess the beginning of April is when they announced this year's class for the Hall of Fame, and he most certainly is going to be among those. So this is the year that he will go into the Hall of Fame, and one can only imagine what that ceremony is going to be like as he goes in now posthumously. Again, Timmy Legs and Richard Jefferson and RJ, I'll start with you. We've not had a chance to talk with you here. You're an LA guy. You make your home there. You played against him in the finals, playing for the Nets once upon a time. Just what are your thoughts today?
It's been tough, right? And I'm not a person that's typically short for words, but when you my parents are from Philly, and growing up, they enjoyed watching him. And then my kids who are addicted to basketball, even at 5. And when you see a 5-year-old not fully processing what's going on up into a 70-year-old not processing. And that's the reach that he had. People grew up watching him. People loved him in so many different ways. And so to have this and to see the impact of, his daughter and all the other families, there were, entire families, mom and dad and daughter lost in the crash. And there's so many kids and so many people affected. It's hard to understand what's going on right now.
Legs, you were telling us this morning that you and he shared, among other things, this common bond of having coached your kids, that you did that and that you and he talked a lot about that. And I know that's one of the things that's on your mind today.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that keeps haunting me, that I can't escape, is I think about, as a player, as a professional athlete, the sacrifices you make in terms of your family, right? The time commitment that you have to do that at that level for that long. You're obsessed with it from the time you're a kid. You miss things. And I'm not talking about birthdays and holidays because, look, you can celebrate those things at a different day before you take a 10-day road trip. I'm talking about the little things, being around your kids, eating cereal, watching TV, and they say something funny, being at games, things like that. You miss things. So as your career's winding down, you start to make that transition, and you can't wait to make up for those things and to spend all that time with your family. And when it comes to coaching, I was able to do that. I am so blessed. And some of the greatest memories I will have my entire life, and the greatest bond I have with both of my children, I got to do that. I think about the car rides and the plane rides and the hotels and the practices and all of those tournaments and all of those things. The best part about it was we were doing it together. And so when I see the commitment that he had to make that happen for his daughter and the other kids with the academy that he opened up, what haunts me is that I know how much he was looking forward to that phase of his life, and he deserved to have that so much because of what he gave to the game, and he's not going to be able to do that. And that's the part that really wells up the emotion in me, and I'm so grateful that I had the opportunity to do that with my kids, and I know Kobe was looking forward to that same phase.
Yesterday on First Take, Molly Karam Rose asked a question that I think struck both of us. That was, what was it about Kobe that made all of us feel like we knew him in some way and inspired everybody, this glue that held people together? How would you answer that question? What was it about him?
We watched him grow up, everyone, especially in LA with all the bright lights. And there's a brotherhood of guys that go straight to the NBA, no different than guys that all come from Arizona or all come from North Carolina. There's a brotherhood. And so when you watch him at 17 years old be one of the most dynamic athletes, and the entire world watched him grow up in LA, and not only make mistakes, but also go and work tirelessly and become a champion and an MVP. We watched his entire life almost like it was a reality show in LA. So everyone is connected to him. And then you just watch the Oscars and, the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Like him and LA were so interconnected, but he also had roots on the East Coast. So it was just, there was so much about Kobe that just spread throughout. He was one of the first players to go to China and say, like, hey, I'm going to make my mark here and I'm going to help grow the game of basketball. So internationally, people are mourning.
I think you're onto something here too, Legs. I tried to mention this yesterday, but there's just so many people that have so many different thoughts. But in my comparatively limited experience with him, he struck me as happier now in his life than he ever was when he was playing. I interviewed him probably 15 times while he was playing and spent did a few events with him afterwards where you spent some time sort of, away from everyone else. And I think it's exactly what you're talking about, that he had done everything he set out to do. He had accomplished that, and he was genuinely a person who says, I had climbed that mountain. Now I'm looking to the next mountain. And he didn't think that much about his past. He really was looking forward to his future. And it is all the things you were talking about, among others. I mean, he had all sorts of aspirations in the world of entertainment and many other business interests. But it was this primarily. It was as being with his family that I think brought him a lot of joy. And Legs, like you, that of all the things that bother me about this, that I think is what bothers me the most.
No question. And I think, you never know what your children are going to fall in love with that you also loved. You don't know that. You introduce them to it, and we'll see if they take to it. So to have his daughter fall in love with something that he built his life around, I can't imagine how rewarding that was for him, right? And how special that was and that bond was for him. And you think about guys on that level, I think the process for him as a player, a lot of that is, the anxiety of fear of failure. And in some ways, you're more relieved not to fail than you do even get the joy out of winning. When you get to this phase of your life, that's gone. And that's why I think we saw how content he was, how happy he was to make the transition to the next phase of his life. Because he gave everything he had today. He never cheated it for a second. Now it's, let's pass it on now here. And let me spend this time with my family in a very relaxed state of mind. No fear of failure here. And I think, greatness, that's often the case.
So a little later this morning, Legs was telling us a story today that I want him to share here, that you were playing pickup basketball with Kobe Bryant when he was 15 years old and you were in the NBA. It's a magnificent story, and we will get to that. But one of the overarching storylines here is that the Lakers were supposed to play tonight at home against the Clippers, and by now I'm sure you're aware that game has been postponed, and I want to bring in Adrian Wojnarowski here, our NBA insider with that. Woj, why did the league ultimately decide to postpone the game tonight?
Greeny, essentially because the Lakers asked them if they could do that and told the league and the Clippers, we're not ready to play this game. We're not ready to host what would really be an event of some magnitude so quickly after Kobe's passing. The Clippers acquiesced to this, and the Lakers now will open up. They'll play again on Friday against Portland on ESPN. And then, of course, the postponement date is made easier because it's two teams in the same city who share the same arena. It's easier to find a date to play this game again that doesn't disrupt their schedules.
All right, so there's that piece of it. And as you say, they will take to the court again on Friday. In the meantime, you have a piece on ESPN.com that went up just a short time ago about Kobe and about your experiences with him. Is there one story from that you'd like to share?
Well, Greeny, I just think in general for me, I think the only real currency you have in a job like mine, I think, is the trust people have in you to tell their stories, to perhaps share their information. And I would say when I became a full-time NBA reporter, and around that time of 2007, 2008, no one gave me more credibility in the league than I think Kobe did, because, we built a professional relationship, and he was willing to tell me his stories. He was willing to talk to me. And I really felt that resonated for me for years. And even now, he gave me credibility when I'm not sure how much I had around. In a lot of ways, he helped me build a career as an NBA writer. And I've thought more about that here in the last couple days. I think there's certainly a lot of other people who've impacted my career in that way, but none more than Kobe Bryant did.
That's a beautiful piece, Woj, and thank you very much. And obviously, we'll continue to lean on you for the latest on all of these developments across the league. In the meantime, of course,